Namaste and welcome to this monthly Q&A. This is volume 20. And if you're new to the channel, once a month approximately, we take some time to read through some of the questions that have been sent in. And these questions are read out and answered anonymously. So you might want to send a question in for one of two reasons. Perhaps you can't make a satsang live and would really like some help with a question. Or the second reason is that you would prefer not to have your name associated to the question or be live on a session. So you can also send in a question for that. And if you check out the links underneath this video on YouTube here, there will be a link where you can click on, and there's a form on that page that you can fill out with your question. So there is quite a few questions we have, so it might take us a little while to get to your question. But if you do send in a question, please be patient if you can. And I'd ask you just to try to send it concisely, but with enough detail just to let me know, get a feel for what's going on for you right now. So as always, Anish is here to read the questions for me. And we'll just dive in and see how many we can get through. Thank you, Anish, when you're ready.
Helen, first question. If I'm not the one who acts, thinks, or decides, and if all the actions that are happening to this body depend on the energy in which I live, then is there nothing I can do to try to reach a higher energy field of unity and recognition of reality? Nothing? Thank you.
So it's a very common question when we begin to realize there isn't really a separate person. We might at first feel that there's nothing we can do, we're powerless to make this awakening happen. But actually, it's true that as a separate being, as a separate entity, a person, there is nothing we can do because our actions and words and speech are coming from how much we have seen who we really are. So the deeper our recognition of ourself has gone, the more our actions, words, and thoughts are going to be coming from an awakened place anyway. What is it that's going to speed that process up? Well, simply the understanding that that process of self-realization, awakening, cannot be stopped. That it never was the separate self that was making it happen in the first place. It's really important to understand the separate self does not exist. It's a collection of thoughts and energies. It's not an actual entity. So the more that we start to see this, the more we can realize that our awakening is happening anyway, because this great infinite awareness wants to recognize itself, and that can never actually really be stopped. So shifting our thought process from how can I speed this up to what if it's going to automatically unfold at the fastest speed possible as I begin to realize that there is no separate self, and that because there is no separate self, the infinite self is on it, and there's no capacity for failure. If you were a separate being, then you would have to make sure you'd be responsible for making sure your awakening occurs. But there's even better news. There's some really good news with this, and that is that it's happening and cannot be stopped. And it's only going to get faster, easier, and we're going to have a lot more fun as we begin to see we don't even need to make this happen. It's already unfolding. The seeing of who we are again and again and again, either in our meditation or in our self-inquiry, is going to speed this process up, because more and more we'll be free of these energies of separation and the sense of being able to do something as a separate entity. So I hope that helps. It can feel powerless to not have control as a separate being. But actually, when you realize who you really are, who is orchestrating this awakening, it's very, very exciting. And there's zero possibility of failure. Thanks, Anish.
Next question. How do I get my nervous system to calm down and heal through meditation and mindfulness?
Yeah, so I can't really tell you about mindfulness. I haven't really looked at it. But I can say that in my own experience, contemplation, first of all, one of the core teachings that we practice, was really, really super helpful in terms of allowing the nervous system to calm down. It's agitated, traumatized the nervous system because of the sense of separation. That sense of separation, being a someone separate to everything else, is so opposite to what's really true. There's a huge gap in between energy in our bodies, like what is possible, the vitality and health and well-being, and where we're kind of living when we believe we're in a separate being. That gap is what really agitates and disturbs the nervous system. It feels like a trigger on the outside that upsets the nervous system. Somebody says something or does something or whatever. But it's really the thoughts that are produced in response to that thing that's happening outside that really disturbs the nervous system. As we begin to wake up to who we really are, then we start to see that none of those thoughts that we might have in those particular moments, or any thought actually, is really ultimately true. None of the thoughts we have about other beings and other things, and the thoughts we have about ourselves as a separate being are true. It's quite shocking, but the effect that that will have is to allow the nervous system to really calm down. So we do some meditation here in these teachings that's aimed at bringing attention to what is real, away from what is unreal. And we also have some contemplation to help you gently let go of believing what is not true, perhaps that we're not safe, that we're not good enough, that we feel limited, can't get what we want. It's a fundamental beliefs in the separate sense of self. And as those are let go of gradually, gently through contemplation, the nervous system's going to calm down even more. And then we'll feel ready for some self-inquiry. And that is going to really speed this process. So check out the channel here. There's playlists on all three of those: meditation, contemplation, and self-inquiry. And as you practice, you'll find naturally, day by day, with consistency, things are just resetting back to their normal level. And eventually, we're nothing at all that happens inside, outside, so thoughts and emotions and experiences outside can actually affect your nervous system. Your nervous system is then tuned into the recognition of who you are, and there's equanimity in that and peace. Thanks, Anish.
Hi, Helen. Thank you for your clear teachings and the love with which you share them. I'm a 37-year-old woman from India and I'm deeply drawn to self inquiry. Yet I find myself caught in persistent emotional patterns around a man I never really met or knew. Few years ago, I came across his matrimonial profile and felt a genuine interest, but he did not respond to my messages. And then later, I contacted him directly, but he clearly declined. Intellectually, I know that the matter is over and that I never actually knew him. Before contacting him, I had inwardly asked for guidance about why I felt drawn to him. Soon afterward, I heard a song that my mind interpreted as a sign of special connection. Looking back, I can see how much meaning and hope I may have projected onto the situation. Years later, whenever I feel pressure around marriage, my mind returns to him. It seems to be holding on to an unfinished possibility rather than the reality of what happened. At the same time, I feel suspended between an old life that has fallen away and a new one that has not yet emerged. There is a deep longing for home, connection, and direction. My question is, when an unfinished possibility continues to reappear as hope and longing, how can I discern intuition from projection and see what the mind is truly holding on to? Thank you again. Lots of love.
Thank you for your question. Yeah. So if we are receiving some direct intuition, it's going to feel alive and exciting in the body, right? You know that feeling when you've had some kind of understanding or epiphany. There's a freshness to the energy that comes with that kind of insight. And your body will never lie to you in that way. It will always tell you, this is true, this is fresh, this is alive, this is important. And we can contrast that against what's going on in the mind sometimes. It feels flat, boring, repetitive, or even fearful, upsetting, despairing. And there's a marked contrast in how your body feels. Your body's always telling you one of two things. And that is that what you are considering right now is true or untrue. Feels good, we're heading towards truth. Feels bad, we're heading further into illusion. The body is so clever that it can help us this way because it's made of truth, it's made of awareness. So I'd really suggest looking into what emotion it is that arises from this unfinished business. And you kind of suggested a few, I think, in what you shared. And take a look at our contemplation practice here. So if we have an unconscious idea, it's running our life. It first shows up as an emotion and then as an experience. And if we can see that perhaps we don't feel safe enough or we don't feel good enough, and again, check out the contemplation playlist here on the YouTube channel. There's a whole lot of stuff there to help you with this, videos to help you with this. What you'll find is as you start to contemplate and release this idea that is being held onto, that's true for a separate being, but not for who you really are, the pure awareness, that your experience begins to also change. As we let go of believing this thought, the emotion begins to shift, and the experience we have in that area of our life begins to change. And this encounter with this being is only one of a possible series of manifestations that can happen in this area for you, as for all of us. And the next manifestation will be better than the previous one, even more closely matched to what you want. So you can see with this being, there were some things that you did want that lined up and some things you didn't want that didn't line up. So as we get free of these beliefs with our contemplation practice, we're also going to get clear on what we really want. We're going to feel that we can deserve it and that we can have it. That's going to automatically reflect as a higher, better manifestation. That's happening for us all the time. Our life is being upgraded. But if we're holding on to some belief, and we all do, just because we're realizing who we are doesn't mean these beliefs automatically go away. At least they didn't for me and lots of people I have worked with. That they're just limiting, these beliefs are limiting the manifestation of what we can experience in any area of life. So getting clear on what you would really want and defining that. What would you want in this relationship? And not even needing to define who that is with, just what you would want and how you would want to feel. And doing some contemplation by looking at the emotion that you feel and looking at the belief underneath that. And that will be the easiest way that I've found to kind of let go of the energy that's been spent looking at this subject. And then whatever is going to come for you next will be more aligned with what your heart truly desires. While there's a belief in the way, we kind of get half of what we want, half of what we don't want, or 25% what we want, 75% what we don't want. We want to flip that over to 100% what we want. So contemplation would really suggest taking a look at it. And it'll just help us to embody and live more from this place of awareness or truth. Thanks, Anish.
Next question. Hi, Helen. I'm a man in my early 60s with chronic pains in my throat and second chakra area. The pains bounce up and down around these areas, and I'm certainly finding strong feelings of fear, lack of safety, and unworthiness. I have found the attention on space around these really helpful, not fixating on the sensations and finding the space in and around. I'm also both troubled and tired by these pains, and also fascinated and curious about them. I'm a psychotherapist, and so my mind is curious to understand. But the deepest seems to be dropping into silence behind and within form. I lost my wife 2 years ago. I'm tired, stripped of many roles, and finding my way back to life. I would love for you to comment on this and on the ravages of the experience of the self when one is not yet fully awakened to the universal self. Thank you.
Yeah, so that kind of that phase in between where we've seen enough to recognize that we're not who we thought we were, and yet it hasn't been fully embodied, can be very, very challenging. I remember pretty much the worst part of my awakening. So my sympathies are with you and also for the loss of your wife. And what I would suggest is for you to start to look at some contemplation. There is a playlist here on YouTube that is dealing with contemplation to look at these emotions that you're talking about here and the beliefs behind them. What happens is, as we see clearer who we really are, there is an energy flow that goes from the root chakra to the crown. You might know it's called the Kundalini. And it's just natural life force energy that is waking up when we're stopping expending so much life force on these false ideas of separation. And there is a kind of a myth I've found in awakening that these beliefs, these ideas will just disappear upon seeing who I am. For me, it wasn't really true. It was only once I'd seen who I am that I could actually begin to, or begun to see who I am, that I could actually start to look at these beliefs, the idea that I'm not safe, which reflected as fear, a lot of fear, constant fear, the idea that I'm not good enough, which reflected as unworthy, a sense of unworthiness, and reflected as my whole life. And the sense that I don't even deserve to exist, this was the reflecting as shame. These ideas were deeply unconscious. I wasn't aware of them consciously. I only could trace them back from the emotion by asking, like we do in contemplation, what the emotion's trying to tell me. And these beliefs, while they are lodged in the system, they are very slow moving frequencies. The energy is trying to move up and it's quick and fast moving. It's pure life force energy. It's constantly streaming up and then cycling back around. You can think of it like a hose pipe with that's attached to a tap, and the tap's turned on. Every time we have a seeing of who we are, or an insight, or deepen in our meditation, or inquiry, self-inquiry, it's like turning the tap on a bit more fully. So there's even more water flowing up this pipe. These beliefs, these ideas that I'm not safe or I'm not good enough, um, are like someone standing with their foot on the hose pipe, and the water backs up behind this blockage. And really, it's fast moving energy meeting a very slow moving energy, like water meeting treacle or molasses. There's going to be some kind of resistance there. And that's what we feel as pain. It also reflects as our everyday worldly experience. That our emotions and our experiences have to agree with the idea that I'm not safe or that I'm not good enough or I'm limited, whatever the belief is. So contemplation is a way to take your foot off of the hosepipe so that the water can flow through. When there's no blockages in that pipe, or when there's no lower frequencies in the Kundalini channel, it will just flow up. You won't even know that it's flowing because there'll be no resistance along the way. Right now, you can feel where it's hitting some kind of blockage. That is only really a slow frequency that's very low. If you can imagine the frequency, the vibration of a thought that says, I am infinite awareness, compared to, I don't deserve to exist, there's going to be a huge gap, or I'm not good enough, not safe. Huge gap in those frequencies. And that's what causes the problem in the nervous system and the Kundalini channel. Contemplation is really designed to help with this. And all we're doing with any authentic spiritual practice is removing the obstacles to clear seeing and clear embodiment of that truth. So check out contemplation and see if you can work with the emotions that you've mentioned here one by one. Start with fear, maybe, and then move on to the next one. Stay with it for 30 days with each emotion. And if you need any help, just write back in and I'll do my best to help. Thanks, Anish.
Next question. I'm a 37-year-old woman who wants marriage and children, and I'm currently considering a proposal from someone I feel uncertain about. There is a strong internal identity as the decision maker. The stakes feel extremely high, and I no longer fully trust my own judgment. And there are several factors to cloud my discernment: numerous relationship mistakes and overlooked red flags. I'm not as attracted to him as I would ideally like to be, and I don't know whether that means I'm settling or having overly high expectations or afraid of commitment. I feel pressure from my biological clock and the sense that time is limited as a woman. Rejection in dating has historically been painful for me, and the prospect of starting all over again feels daunting. I fear that a more suitable partner may not be out there. Would it be possible to inquire into each of these fears with you so that I can untangle this knot of identity and see more clearly?
Yeah, so self-inquiry in general is going to help you see clearer who you are, but also who you are not. And you've pointed to some of those in your those ideas of what you are not, the old ideas. And in your the questions that you've sent in here, if you can go back and listen again to that and just see where we feel that we're talking as a form, we're talking as a person, talking as a separate being. So are you limited? Are you limited by anything that's happening to the body? And we might say, well, of course, I know I'm unlimited as the infinite awareness, but my body might still be limited. But what happens in our body is going to reflect what we are holding on to be true. So if we're looking at our body situation and saying that because my body's limited, I feel limited, it's always going to continue in that cycle, and we won't know what to do. We'll feel confused. Our innate guidance will feel the intelligence of that innate guidance will feel lost to us. So self-inquiry is really going to help you turn this around because it's going to show you exactly who you are. And I would really suggest checking out the self-inquiry playlist here on the YouTube channel if you haven't already. And really wanting to find out if there is actually you and another being. So if there isn't you and another being. As you begin to see who you are, you realize there's just one being that's appearing as all of these different body minds. Actually, if you think about it for a minute, it's hard to make a decision about another being when we begin to realize there aren't any other beings. So our mind might say, well, I need to make a decision about this. Time is moving forward, and then I can be peaceful once I've made the decision. But it's hard to make a clear decision or have it arise when we're feeling separate and divided from considering me and other beings. So what I really suggest is working with this self-inquiry that you find here on the YouTube playlist. And of course, you're always welcome to join the Satsang live if you can, and we could do it together. But basically, to really look at what you actually are and not stopping at any phenomenal thing. So coming back to the pure formlessness of who you and what you are. And then trying to see, where does that formlessness end? We could call it awareness or presence or stillness. And when I first recognized that presence, that stillness, I still was believing it had a particular end point and that there was someone else, other beings, other things separate to me. I actually came to the point where I realized I can't actually make a decision about an other being because there is only the one being. In fact, the idea of otherness is what confuses us and lowers our life force energy. So as you come to see through self-inquiry that the more you recognize who you really are and that there is only this one infinite stillness, awareness, presence, the life force in the body goes up. And from that higher life force where we're feeling better, feeling good, the right knowingness of what should happen will be obvious. It will just be obvious. It will be a knowing, like you know your own name. You don't have to, oh, is that my name or not? If I were to suggest a name to you, you know, yeah, that's not my name or that is my name. The same certainty and clarity is available from these higher levels of life force. How do we do that? Well, by seeing directly who we are. So notice sometimes the mind just has it backwards. The mind will say, once I figure this out, I can get back to my practice and feel more peaceful. But the right decision is not really going to be able to arise while we're still really caught in duality here. Can it be true that you have to make a decision about an other being? Can that ultimately be true? And if there is no separate being, no one to decide, then life is going to go a certain way anyway. Where that goes in manifestation, whether you end up with this being or not, we don't know. But we can know that it will be what's best for you and this other being. That much is certain. And it will also bring beautiful feelings for both of you, whether that's together or separate. And if separate, there is someone else, a better manifestation waiting after this one. Life is always upgrading itself in manifestation. So check out the self-inquiry, jump on a Satsang live if you can, and we can put your hand up if you feel able to do that, and we can do some inquiry together. But most of all, challenge the sense of otherness, of separation, realizing you cannot really make a clear decision about a being who is not separate to you. You can only recognize your wholeness, and then the spontaneous, correct decisions arise from there. That's how the kind of awakened way functions. Thanks, Anish.
Next question. I have a history of betrayals and long waits for desires. How can I manifest desires easily and quickly? overcoming the doubt and suffering caused by past delays. Also, how do I deal with the fear of a seemingly awakened person who believes they are beyond good and bad, potentially inflicting pain without consequence? Can I shorten the time for manifestation? If, as you say, nothing is to be done about desires, what is the role of positive thinking, visualizing, or aligning? Is thinking or visualizing my desires already a complete form of doing? And are they done in the mind or in the stillness? Please help me understand this contradiction. Thank you.
Yeah, so positive thinking at this point is not really going to help us so much because it is still in duality. And visualizing, or one thing that we do in our community is conscious imagining, and it's consciously imagining what we want, focusing on what we do want. And it's not coming from the sense of a doer, because there isn't one, of course. There is no separate self. So conscious imagining is simply a way of working with, bringing attention to the desires we have and a recognition that those desires are already trying to unfold on their own. So manifestation is always upgrading itself in and as our lives, or trying to. And how we get in the way of that process is by believing that we have to make that happen. Actually, it's not really true. So imagining is only a way of working with what's already coming anyway. Usually we're in opposition to that because our focus is almost constantly on what we do not want, past betrayals and hurts and things like that, as you pointed to. So I'd suggest writing down what you do want and taking some time to really define that. And knowing that this must be not a personal desire. There are no personal desires. There's only the great self, the infinite awareness. And as it moves into form, in the world of form, it has desires, especially as a human being. So your desire is really a foretelling, a teaser trailer for what wants to happen for you. And it's not something you have to make happen. It's unfolding already. And our imagining, by consciously focusing on what we do want, is going to begin to allow that unfolding much, much more easily. So simply said, the desires that we have are already trying to come into form. And all we're really looking at is how to get out of the way of that process. No desire is personal, and no desire belongs to a separate being. And no desire has to involve us making it happen. In fact, it is that idea that will stop it from happening, right? How do I make sure this thing occurs? So the more we can relax and let go of pushing so hard around our desires, the more likely they are to show up. How do we relax and stop pushing? By having some fun. So we imagine what we want as if we already have it, as long as it feels good. If it feels good, we're consciously imagining. If it feels bad, we're unconsciously imagining, focused on what we don't want. So just playing with it in your imagination 5 minutes a day, knowing that it is stillness that is consciously imagining, not a person, and that this is where life is trying to go for us anyway. That really helps us. Well, I don't need to make everything I want appear. You don't need to either. Nobody does. What if that is what is trying to happen right now? There's only certain thoughts we have that are holding that on pause. One of those is that we have to make the desires happen. The other is usually some unconscious idea that we can look at in contemplation. There's a playlist here. If I've been betrayed before, there'll be a hurt there and it will feel very unsafe to actually open up to another relationship, right? Just as an example. So I'd suggest looking at those emotions that show up around this in the perspective of the core teaching of contemplation. Check out those videos here on the channel on the playlist for that. So I hope that helps. It's a really common area we get stuck. If there's no doer who's making his desires appear, then nobody. The universe is moving that way. And we're just going to have more fun along the way with that journey. Thanks, Anish.
Next question. Helen, yesterday I was watching a satsang, and while I was watching it, I felt my head spinning in a very scary way. And I was so scared I couldn't even finish the satsang. I switched off the laptop immediately. Any advice on this? Thank you.
Yeah, so it's quite a common thing, and I obviously understand it was very scary. But what happens is that when we think we are a separate being, we hold our body so tight and tense. There's a lot of fear, self-doubt, maybe sense of unworthiness that has been with us for such a long time, from this false idea of who we are. And sometimes when we're deeply relaxed, and that can be in a deep meditation, in a random moment where we're just enjoying a movie, when we're laughing with friends over a coffee or something, or of course in satsang when we're just listening and we're not pushing hard against anything, then we might notice the body begins to relax more. What happens then is that sometimes the body will start to move by itself. And you might see your arms or legs moving, your head moving. Sometimes for me, it would be all of those. Other times I would just start to yawn, and I would yawn every 10 seconds for the rest of 2 or 3 hours. But it is just our body's way of moving so that we can let some energies kind of wriggle out of the body, some lower frequencies. And our mind will say, because this thing happened, I got scared. But what if it's the other way around? What if, because there's some fear still in the system, the nervous system, the Kundalini channel as well, that the body is trying to shake that free? And that's what it's actually doing. It's like moving. Energy wants to move and the body wants to move. And for most of us, we live a very sedentary life. We're sitting like this, or we're standing when we walk, or we're laying down when we're in bed. For most of us, that's all we experience every day. So I would suggest checking out the contemplation here on the YouTube channel to help you work with fear, but also to recognize that this is a natural process. You do this every morning without realizing. When you get out of bed in the morning, you kind of stretch, right? You have a stretch and oh, I feel so good. And it's exactly the same thing. We just think that we made that stretch happen. When the body kind of starts to move on its own, seemingly, it really becomes clear in those moments there is not someone here that could stop it or is making those actions happen. So respecting the natural intelligence of the body, that it knows what it wants to do. And if you can, if it's safe to do so, check out a few little asanas, yoga postures. The reason that we have yoga asanas is that all of those different ways of moving the body into different shapes are designed to actually move the body in ways that will release these energies. So the body doesn't kind of have to do it on its own. So suggest kind of just checking out which asanas feel appealing to you and let your body choose them. Just flick through some on YouTube or on Google and notice which ones feel alive to your body. Yeah, I want to give that a go. Of course, as long as it's not you don't have any health condition or something like that that may stop you. If so, then of course check out with a doctor first. But allowing the body to move, even a simple thing like when you stand up, taking a nice deep breath that goes right down to the belly. Mostly we only breathe with our chest or our belly. And it doesn't give us a full inhale or exhale. Just arms above your head if you can when you stand up, just gently bending over. as if your hands were moving down towards the ground, only going as far as you can, but it gives a wonderful little stretch, like a yawn for your spine, which is really all that's happening um, with these movements, right? There's probably some tension in the neck, and intuitively the body's trying to shake that tension out. So it's totally natural. Of course, having said that, the first time it happens, it might be a little weird and even scary at first, but you're in good company. So check out the contemplation as well, and check out any yoga asanas that feel exciting to you. And just do what you can. You don't have to start a massive routine. Just maybe doing one pose a day and building it up slightly from there, just to help the body move and experience different shapes that we just don't get to in our normal everyday existence. Thanks, Anish.
Next question. Dear Helen, when I hear a spiritual master or anyone that I deeply trust talk about angels, it feels like I'm immediately can feel their presence. I enter in a state of peace and the body feels subtle currents of energy. I feel very drawn to that, but I heard that you can get stuck in these experiences. I wanted to ask if contacting with other realms, like the angelic ones, can be beneficial for our spiritual awakening. Thank you so much. Much love and gratitude.
Yeah, thank you for your question. And yeah, it's more important why we contact those higher beings. What is our reason for doing that? So naturally, we're going to feel aligned with certain sages, saints, avatars, angels, deities, of all kinds. And where I'm sitting right here, you can see some of the ones that are special to me. And in my room here, there's pictures all over. Um, and if we feel that connection or some kind of pull towards a particular being, we can know that they're not separate to us, but they might have gone further down this path than we have, and they might be uh, around us or trying to initiate a connection with us to try to help us. But of course, it is a free will universe. We have to step towards them first by being curious, really, and willing to open. But as I said, anything we do from a devotion to truth, so why we're doing it, is more important. So as a separate being, I could try to connect with angels and feel really special and use it as a way to make myself feel more special as a separate being. Look at me, I can connect with angels. Of course, you're not doing that. If you were doing that, you wouldn't even have sent this question in. But just to contrast, then, how is this going to help me in my awakening, in recognizing this connection with some higher realm or some individual that has walked this path already and really wants to offer help? That kind of alignment is really, really beneficial and has really helped me my whole awakening journey and still does even now. So just noticing who you feel aligned to, who you feel a pull, or maybe you keep hearing about a particular angel, or somebody gives you a book with that in there, or whichever way it comes. But most of all, not worrying about being caught in a illusion by this. If you were going to use this to kind of intensify your sense of separateness and specialness, you wouldn't have sent this question in. You'd just be doing it, right? And our devotion to truth is our is our safety meter. It's our compass pointing north. If north is truth, for example, our devotion to truth will always tell us when we're doing something from a different motivation than that. You'll feel it in your body, right? You can feel it. It doesn't feel so good. Or it feels lower than this pure devotion. I'd really suggest just opening up and seeing what wants to happen. And checking out your body's feedback when you connect with anything or anyone. Um, If they really are from a higher plane, the body is going to respond with a positive feeling. And if they might not have your best interests at heart, your body will tell you that first. And if it doesn't feel right, it doesn't feel so good, you can just gently move away from that. But intuitively already, I think you're feeling that that call can be very helpful for you. So enjoy it. Thanks, Anish.
Next question. In the video where the mind stops, you asked us to focus our attention on any object and then to sense the formless around that object. But outside of imagination, I don't know what that means. Thank you.
It's a good question, and I'm really glad you asked. It's simply that there is formlessness already here. So if I hold up my hand, around my hand, there is empty, formless space, right? Here there is a form, and around it, in front of it, and behind it, there is formlessness. There's nothing, there's no thing to see, right? It's invisible, empty, formless space all around my hand. And we've seen it so many times, we just simply overlook it, right? If we walk into a room and we tend to pay attention to the objects in that room, and almost the empty space around those objects seems irrelevant, necessary, but kind of irrelevant. If the empty space wasn't there, the objects couldn't be in it. So here we're just kind of shifting that focus. What if the empty space right now, I'm moving my hand through that empty space right now. There's nothing special, this formlessness. At least it doesn't seem it at first. So, well, yeah, I'm surrounded by empty, formless space all the time. What's the big deal, says the mind. But if you can see that between these two forms here, these two hands, there's something intangible, right? I can't pick it up. I can't touch it. I can't pull it away. I can't push it. I can't divide it. No matter what I do to this empty space in between my hands, it will never be impacted at all because it's completely intangible already. So just the ordinary empty space that you're seeing, where an object is absent. So we can see it by contrast at first. Where the objects are absent, in between my hands, these objects, these forms, there is formlessness right here. So all I'm doing is just kind of bringing attention to the formless space between my hands. You can't really see it with your eyes, but you know it's there, right? You can't see it because it's invisible, but you can recognize it by contrast. This is visible, and in between is invisible. So in the guided meditations playlist on YouTube here, there is also a meditation where we work with this particular method as well, zooming in and zooming out, or contextual field. And actually, we're going to be rolling out some guided meditations over the next few weeks. So watch out for that one as well. It might just help you really also feel more comfortable with this. But if this method doesn't feel right for you, totally disregard it. With any teaching, take what works for you, take what doesn't, and leave it. I mean, leave what doesn't work. Thank you. And I think we'd better make this the last question, Anish.
Last question. How can we know if we are acting from our true selves? Instead of thinking, is it about acting from feeling?
Yeah, absolutely. Already you get the answer to this. So if I'm acting from the authentic place of truth, my body's going to give me some feedback about that. It will feel uplifting. It will feel positive. Anywhere from just very nice to peaceful to blissful, joyful. So you can tell the difference, right? You're gazing at a sunset or petting the cat or something, and there's a really warm feeling there. There's a nice feeling in the body. And if you're doing a task and you're doing it because your mind's telling you should get it done and you've been avoiding it for a while, there's the opposite feeling in the body. The body feels very uh perhaps more contracted. So your body's always giving you real-time feedback, whether we're acting from truth or illusion. And there's only two points on that compass, isn't there? Truth or illusion. Normally we have the northeast, southwest, but T and an I, truth and illusion. Feeling good, feeling bad. The better you feel, the more authentically you're acting or being in that moment. The worse you feel, the more you're acting from the perspective of the mind, from thoughts. Actions are being dictated by beliefs that are usually unconscious within our system. So you can always trust that feedback from the body. Test it right now. If you hold on to the thought, I am the infinite awareness, and notice how your body feels. And then you can say, I am, and whatever your name is, right? So if I say, I am Helen, there's a certain confirmation that comes in the body for this body's name. And then if I say, I am Stephen, there's a lowering of the life force here, ever so slightly. And if I say, I'm not good enough, there's something wrong with me, the body immediately gives us the, nope, you're heading back towards illusion feedback, right? You can feel the difference. So just play with this until you really trust it, because it's always going to be reliable. Our mind says that when we have a thought such as we're not good enough, that the reason we feel bad is because that thought is true. It's true. Mind says you're not good enough. What if we feel bad because the body is saying that's false, 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 false. The mind says I'm not good enough. The body says false, false, false. So every negative emotion that we have is really the body's way of saying, to varying degrees, not true. This is utterly false. What you're entertaining right now is false. So I hope that that helps you with it. Thank you for sending in your questions, and we will meet in another month, and you can send in your questions. We'll get through as many as we can in the time that we have. And again, just consider keeping your your question concise if you can. And it allows us to get to more of the questions. Thank you, Anish, as always, for reading the questions for me. And thank you all for sending in your wonderful questions. Check out the link underneath this video to find a page to send one in if you'd like to. And thank you for joining me. Namaste.